How have you been?
I've been all right.
Yeah.
I was a bit busy for like the last 2 weeks, so
Mm.
balancing out my life was really hard because of that concert. But otherwise, now I think I'm a bit better, but I have a bit of backlog, so I'm just trying to catch up with creatures again,
Yeah.
and I will see how it goes. See how it goes.
Uh,
I feel like today will determine for me. Tonight, when I jump back into the stuff and like onto my laptop, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
now I think we're back up to speed. But for the most
Yeah.
part, I'm really behind, and it affects the whole team.
Just give some workload to Raymond. Say, hey, take care of this.
He has his own man. He has his own workload. So it's hard.
I'm Bonnie Kibuka. On my podcast, the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, I've had an honor to sit down with some of the most incredible hearts and minds from Uganda, like Miss Uganda Oliver Nakakande, Joram Ozor Job, the Executive Director of Joram Model Management, Pastor Wilson Bugembe, and many, many more. On this podcast, you get to hear raw and real life stories of their journey, what they've been through, and the people that have inspired their journey so that they can make a difference in ours. Listen to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Join the journey soon. Welcome to my podcast once again, Robin Malinga. For the listeners, for a quick introduction about Robin Malinga, is a storyteller and makes music, as you may have heard him talking about when I asked him how he's doing. He was part of a Navio at 20 years. So he does music, which we're going to talk about. And he's a COO at Creatures Animation. And as you might hear his last name, he's the brother to Raymond Malinga. Remember Raymond Malinga, who was here to talk about Kizazimoto, Had a Boy episode. Now, this is his brother. Welcome to the podcast, my brother.
And thank you very much. Glad to be here.
The listeners, you won't know this, but I'm going to have to say we recorded an episode, a full hour episode, and I blame myself for that. And the internet was not good. I listened to it, I was editing it. I was like, you know what? I don't want to put out bad work for either of us. And I asked Robin to come back on the podcast so we can redo it. So this is a take two.
Yeah, this is take two. We're trying everything. I'm recording on my end. You're recording on your end. I think like this is it. This is it. It will be great.
I'm glad that we're able to do this again. But yeah, you talked about life a little bit, and I'm gonna start with the. And the good thing you're back because the first episode we talked about, you talked about your music journey, and you were telling me how you were gonna go to this Navio uh, concert, and I was able to see some of the clips. How was the experience like?
Oh man, I really loved the concert. It was I was playing bass for the 20 years of Navio concert, and it's hip hop, and hip hop is fun.
Yeah,
Anyway, for a bassist like me, I feel like hip hop is the drums and the bass. Those are the people who are going to have the best time on stage, and I was one of
right.
the people having the best time on the stage. Like it was such a nice experience. I really I liked working with Navio. I feel like he's very professional when it comes to working with everybody.
Mhm.
It's not every day that you find an artist who cares about the time of the band when they come for the rehearsals. They want to make sure guys leave on time. Wants to make sure everyone is satisfied in all ways, and he was just generally really good. And he's hearing your input, your ideas, and you're like, what if we did this? And he's like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Like, and there were some crazy ideas that I think actually panned out when we got onto stage. So it was really fun. It was really fun. I loved it. I am going to make a comment that not many people will understand, but the sound was good. And when the sound
Sound
is
was good.
good, the sound
Yeah.
was good. I was feeling the sound, and when the sound is good, I play better. So
There are two things you've touched on that when I listen to music, I focus on the sound and the beat and like the bass.
mm,
Especially when I listen to hip hop music, like you say, the bass. When I play the songs in my car, I want to feel the bass. I want to feel it. When I listen to music, I want to hear quality sound. That's why people
yeah.
don't know, but I'll tell you this about myself. I have a speaker in every room of my house, and it's not like a regular speaker. It's like right now when I was talking to you before we started recording, I have a Bose speaker down here. I have a Haddon Canon. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but like the round one.
I'm a,
I have like a
yeah,
Samsung subwoofer on my TV. In my
yeah,
car, there's a Bose speaker, and I have those whatever JBL Bluetooth speakers. So anytime I'm listening, and the AirPod Pro Max that I have from Apple, they made those speakers
yeah,
like those
yeah.
headphones, and the Beats by Dre. I saw those, but like when I'm listening to music, I want to listen to the music. I don't want to listen to probably Tanga Wiyenje back in the day. Like you remember when we cut jerkins and then we
Yeah,
pull.
yeah. I know what you mean. Oh
Yeah.
man, like for me, even me, like sound is so important to me. Like when I moved out of my parents' house, uh my first major purchase was a sound bar, a Samsung sound bar with the
Mhm.
woofer. Like I know a lot of people would go for a TV first, but for me the sound was the most important thing. And I
Yeah.
like what you say because I also have my Bluetooth speakers. I have my headphones which are aged. I need to buy new ones. But I
Yeah.
also have studio monitors like right next to me here, and this is like my
Hmm.
workstation. So like when I'm seated here and I'm working, I don't have studio monitors to make
Yeah.
studio music. Like I have a sound card and everything. I have it because I want to work in proper sound with the proper stereo and left and right. So there are times when I'm seated here and like I'm typing or I'm storyboarding and doing stuff like that. But then like nice sound here, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
so my ideal office setting would actually be with studio monitors, and probably when we're able to get like individual spaces in our workplace, probably I might do something of the sort.
Yeah. That's the thing I like about my job because on my job they let everybody bring their own speakers. Like I'm a mechanic, and like on my workstation I have my little speaker. I have a speaker at my workplace too. That's the other place I forgot to mention. I don't know if people will connect to what we're talking about, but like I tell them like music is part of my life. Like I can't sing, I can't play any instrument. I mean, I can play like the local drums and ngoma. I used to.
Mm.
So like in the US, I think they play more local banjo. Yeah, I think it's called a banjo. Banjo. What's the
Bangos. You mean the
bangos?
bangos?
Yeah, bangos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call it banjo. Yeah, no, the bangos. Yeah, I play those. I play those in church, where the church I used to go to. That's the only instrument I can play, and it's because I don't think that's an instrument. I don't know. It is what it is.
It is.
But
It is
uh,
like so much.
okay. So yeah, but I can't sing. I used to sing in church, in the church choir and school choirs, but that was a forced activity. They forced me to sing it. But now I love listening to music and I love watching people make music. So that's why I picked interest when I watched you at the concert and like seeing the joy they brings to you and talking to you about music. I love that.
Oh man. Oh man, I love music. Like music,
Yeah.
I know film and music are very close to me like this. And
Mhm.
I don't know. But music probably because there's something about performing. I love performing so much. And for a while I was asking myself whether I was going to like retire from performing because that's kind of the life of most instrumentalists, or let me call them gig men in the
Mhm.
Kampala scene. That you start out like when you've just come out of campus, when you're there and you have the time, and then when you get into work life, it kind of dies down slowly, and guys just
Yeah.
disappear from it because the money is not that great, and guys just start prioritizing their work. And so I was looking at my life as well, and I was like, is this what I'm fated to do? And I was like, no,
Mhm.
I can't. I have to continue performing somehow. So I found a nice little balance. I perform when it really holds value to me, like a concert
Mhm.
like that, like Navio's concert. I was like, there, I'm down. That has a lot of value. I will go and perform. And
How did they find you for the Navios concert? Like, how did you get linked to performing at it?
well, the short answer is the music director and I have performed for a long time. His name is John Inyanga, and he was the music director for the show. And we performed together so much. So it's like you need a bassist. He's going to call me first before
Mhm.
he calls somebody else because we sync so much musically. and it solves a
Mhm.
lot of problems. Like he's like bass solved. So he was contacted to be. He had performed with Navio at his last concert some years back, maybe like in 2016. I don't know. It's a long time back, but like
Mhm.
he had performed with him. So he hollered at him, and he
Yeah.
hollered at me, and that just happened. Yeah.
I would love to be in your place because I don't think you guys pay for the concert. You just get paid to be at the concert.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. You do kind of get a free
And,
show,
and then you
and
get
I love
the
it.
backstage. Yeah. You get everything
Yeah,
because you're
yeah,
man of
like
God.
full board experience. There's something like people don't really know, and I feel like it's something that I started to appreciate much more um, in these recent times, because not many people get to experience the show from the stage. You know, a lot
Right.
of people experience it viewing the stage, but there's just something
Mhm.
else. I know the performer is facing you and everything, but like
Yeah.
when I'm looking from the stage, looking at all those people's energy coming up and them screaming and shouting, there's a
Hmm.
different
Yeah.
experience it gives you, and I just really love it.
Yeah.
I love being on stage, man. It's just another feeling.
Yeah, I bet that's cool because you play the guitar, the bass guitar, and then you see the crowd getting into it. And it's like, oh yeah, let's do it, and just adds on to that
Yeah,
energy. I love that. I love that. I love, but things that I love about concerts is like hearing the crowd sing, hearing the crowd scream like
yeah,
that. Even if I'm watching it on TV and I hear the whole crowd singing your song or like people are excited, that I
mm,
love that about the concert. Like even if I'm just watching it from the side, that's something I really love. And what you're talking about being on stage, I remember Eddie Kenzo came to perform in the US and he was in Dallas. So we went to Dallas and I had my camera. So I went on stage to take a picture. I was like, today's content creators, ababeda ku stage yao but akina nyaika people who are
mm.
always around there to like take those
Oh, you know
videos. So I was there.
Nyaika? Interesting.
Yeah. I've recorded 2 episodes with Nyaika on the podcast. He's a
Oh,
great friend.
nice.
But yeah, Nyaika, like, so I went on stage for Eddie Kenzo's concert and just made me feel I wasn't playing or part of it, but just being on that stage to see him perform there and seeing other people, it was quite an experience. So I really love that, and I'm excited that this take two we're able to talk about the concert itself, which we're
Yeah,
not able to
post
talk about
concert.
first
Yeah,
time. You know, like
yeah,
that's really cool. But in the beginning
yeah.
of the episode or beginning of this recording, I mentioned that you are brother to Raymond, and Raymond, the director
The
of
direction.
Boy, he's as a
Mhm.
motto that we have a episode on here for those of you that listen to it. What was your life growing up with Raymond? Because here
What was
we're
my
talking
life?
about a lot of music. Raymond was more into like animation when he talks, at least when he talks about, but you know better than us because he's your brother, you know him better. How was your life growing up with him and those differences where Raymond didn't really talk about a lot of music? He might do music, which we don't know, but you do music and a little bit of animation. How was that like and your guys' differences?
I think this is kind of interesting because a lot of people don't know that Raymond is a dancer, and that Raymond,
Really?
I know, I watched your episode with Raymond and he didn't talk
Yeah.
about it. He never talks about
No.
it, but he says he wants to get back into dancing. Raymond was on Hot Steps. Do you remember the show called Hot Steps that used to be
Yeah, I do
on like,
remember.
yeah,
In
Raymond was on
MTV.
one of the seasons. Yeah, and he was
I'm
second. He was runner up. He was runner up. It's like
I'm gonna
he's
go
a real
look it
dancer.
up.
Yeah, you can find him on YouTube, like Raymond Malinga
Yeah.
dancing. He's there. You'll be surprised.
Really? That's
Um,
crazy. That caught me
yeah,
off guard. He didn't even talk about it.
yeah, he's like with in a different world, you see it. Like, but
Yeah.
he's probably going to get back into it. I know it has been itching him. He's like, man, I want to dance.
Yeah.
Um, and also an interesting fact I think is that when I was much younger, Raymond might have taught me like my first chord on guitar, because
Really.
he had borrowed a guitar from some friends of his and had come home with it, and he knew like basically three chords as well. I won't say it's what got me into music because I was like in primary school, and it was like years later when I really started getting I touched a guitar again. But like it's just maybe an interesting fact that I don't think I've said anywhere else. But anyway, what was it
Mhm.
like when we were young?
Yeah.
We come from the Malinga household, and there is four different Malinga brothers. There's Daniel, who is the eldest. Then there's Ronald. Then there's Raymond. Then there's Robin. who is the last born. And Raymond and I follow each other. There's a gap of like, what, 4 years in between us? I don't know,
Yeah.
four.
Yeah.
I've never been sure. His birthday is like at the end of the year. But yeah, so for us, when we were younger, as far as I've known my whole life, I've been writing and writing in little books, whether it was exercise books from school, whether it was on random papers in competitions at school. I was always writing. And randomly someday, Raymond and I discovered each other, though we lived in the same house. It turns out he was also writing in books just like I was.
Yeah.
And we just
What were you
started
guys writing?
exchanging
Were you writing
stories.
music or were you writing
I
film?
know. The music journey starts much later, as in, like, this
Okay.
is literally writing stories. Like, I don't know, there were
Okay.
random stories. I had a story called The Clank that was about, uh, I don't know, sentient trees that had the power to blow wind. I do not know what
Mhm.
the thing, but like we used to share stories like that back and forth, and would have writing sessions together. That was kind of like what it was like for some years up until Raymond traveled to go and study in Malaysia, actually.
Mhm.
So we did it for quite a while, just passing back and forth. But otherwise, it's playing video games on a PlayStation and what boys do in a house. So I guess.
That's crazy. And I remember you mentioned that in the first recording we had, how you both discovered, you both didn't know that you were writing, and you both discovered that. Uh, so you were a writer and you write these stories. How
Mm.
then do you discover animation, and how do you get pulled into animation?
So um as like I think in the year prior to when Raymond left, uh, the two of us had been like just trying to understand how we were going to bring these stories to life. We were very heavily influenced by anime. We had been
Mhm.
watching, I don't know, a bunch of anime at the time: Bleach, One Piece,
Yeah.
I don't know, Death Note. We were watching a bunch of them at the time, and we were like, man, there has to be a way that we can be able to tell our stories. So Raymond initially, I'm not sure where he got the software from, but there's this software called 3ds Max that initially, like, I don't know, we just had it on like my dad's laptop and something like that, and you have like a sphere, and you're like, the sphere is moving. Raymond has
Mhm.
his own journey with like a cousin of ours called Gabriel that I think he talked about in the
Yeah.
podcast you did with him. But like would come back. There was a point when I was like, I'm making the website for our animation studio, and anyway, generally the point was that we wanted to find a platform for us to tell our stories, and animation became the medium that we used, mostly because Raymond got the opportunity to go and study 3D animation in Malaysia, and my dad miraculously allowed for him to go, yeah, which is
Yeah.
a big surprise to all of us because he had already started campus. And
Mhm.
that was really cool because at the time I'd constantly actually been thinking about whether it was actually possible to study it, but
Yeah.
it's good that Raymond got the opportunity. I didn't get the opportunity. It was financially not sound for our family to have two of us at the same time studying animation. But like, it was good because that knowledge became the basis for which our studio was built. And we're now able to do things now 8 years later with
Yeah.
bits and pieces of that knowledge.
That's good to hear that journey. And I think Raymond talked about his journey to Malaysia and when he went to study. But I'm going to run it back a little bit because I missed this one question I wanted to ask you. You told us the order of the
Mm.
Malingas, the four brothers. We're two brothers. Me and my elder brother Benjamin. We're 2 years apart. Do you think
Yeah.
you be following Raymond helped with your connection with Raymond? And how is do you think that's a closer connection than the other two, or how can you put that?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, maybe, because we do have similar interests. We kind of like similar things. You know, when we were watching anime, we used to watch
Mhm.
together. At first, Raymond and I, by ourselves, like we consumed a lot of content together, whether it was
Right.
games, movies, and anime and animations. I don't know, comic books. You know, were consuming them, so we had similar kind of interests.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that is particularly because of our age, but I'm going to assume it is because we were much closer. Not that I'm not close with my other brothers, because we are all close. It's just that it just so happens that we had more similar interests. And I would even say that even generally amongst the four of
Mm.
us, we kind of all have similar interests because there was a
Yeah.
time when we were all watching anime together still. The four of us are on one laptop like this. You know, if you squeeze us into this camera, you see all looking at the screen like this. So it's kind of interesting. It's just that guys had different interests and their paths in
Mhm.
life were
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what do the other two do?
so my eldest brother Daniel is commonly called Rabbi Daniel by his people. He actually runs a fellowship.
Okay.
Yeah, and he runs a fellowship, like a Christian fellowship, and he's doing pretty well for himself. Like it's really interesting stuff. I like the approach that he has with when he's um, teaching um, Christianity and stuff like that, because he has a more an approach of meeting um, people where they are in terms of their questions. You know, it's like people have questions. He refers to himself as a teacher of the word and not a preacher. Yeah,
Mhm.
which is cool. So we had many arguments at
Yes.
home because people
Yeah.
have different beliefs. I won't say I'd say which people belong where, but like we would have a lot of back and forths, and we keep on saying that he got training for him to do this from the house, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. My brother Ronald is a farmer. He's farming generally. He grows
Right.
a bunch of stuff here and there. He rears animals, and yeah, I don't know. He's
Mhm.
a farmer. I don't know. It's farming on land and
But
making things, selling to different restaurants and places around. Yeah.
you know one thing, and I'm gonna go off track a little bit. It's not off track. A podcast is just a podcast where people talk. So I'll stick to the farming. You know, when we were
Yeah.
growing up, when we were in school, and you say, "Ah, I'm gonna be a farmer." Farmers are considered as failures. You know, like the other kids would say, "Oh man,
Yeah.
that's you failure. I'm gonna quit a farmer. I'm gonna call him." But my perspective changed when I came to the US. Farmers make a lot of money. Like I work, one of my bosses, he's a farmer and he's an airplane mechanic. We work together. That guy makes a lot of money from farming. Like it's just a narrative until the farmers we know in Uganda are not hitting it big or they're not using like different styles, but like those
Mm.
people are making a lot of money. And farmers, I'm gonna say it one more time, farmers are not failure. Farmers are like are people that
No,
can
not
make
at
a
all.
lot of money. And it's a
Yeah.
career.
You eat every day. Do you know what that means? You eat
Yeah.
3 times a day. Let's say 2 times, however many times you eat a day, but you're eating every day. And that food has to come from somewhere. Generally, you are an endless market until you
Hmm.
die. At which, if you leave offspring or if you leave other people, they're all going to eat. And food is
Yeah.
never ending a never ending demand. There's a never
You're
ending
right.
demand for food, and yet that's just only one of the products of farming. You know,
Hmm.
there are different
Hmm.
kinds of
Yeah.
ways to make money. So farming has it's just being smart, and I think it's kind of challenging at the start. I will say there are a lot of hard
Mhm.
lessons you have to learn. Personally,
That's true.
when we were trying to get into like my parents' farm and stuff, man, that stuff there was a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, the amount of brain time that I need to focus on farming here is almost
Hmm.
the amount of same brain time that I need to focus on creatures animation. Like it's a full
Yeah.
like you have to fully be committed. You can't like I don't even think farming can be. I know people have it as a side hustle, but if it's a side hustle,
Hmm.
it's like you're limiting the scope of what your farming is going to do. If you have it full board, like every day, this is what I'm doing,
Yeah.
you're going to
Yeah.
make so much money and you just learn a lot of lessons really fast and really
Mhm.
quick. It's hard like
Yeah.
everything else, and when something is hard, that means it's right.
Mhm. So for the kids out there, when I, at least I speak for myself. When I was in school, would be scared. Kids would be scared to say their parents are farmers. What's your dad's occupation? He's a farmer, and like kids would laugh at you. But I just want to tell the
Man, I
people
was
out
one
there
of
who are
those
listening,
kids.
like, yeah, yeah. So I just want to tell the kids out there that farming, it's no longer what you think or what you see in your head or what you think. It's a career and it's a well-paying job, and it's not easy.
Yeah, like about laughing at kids whose parents were farmers. Back in school, there were kids who were picked up in trucks, and we thought it was funny. But when I grew up, and you understand how expensive a truck is in comparison to your father's saloon car, you're like,
Yeah,
actually, those guys were much richer than we were. Like,
exactly.
it's yeah, so
I
it's
like,
just crazy.
and I don't know if all farmers are like that, but I like it that farmers are rich, but they never expose their richness. Like
Oh,
they're
never.
not the kind of people who are going to go out and brag about how much money they have, but they have their money. Like maybe they invest more money into their business and like the trucks they have, the equipments they use on their site, like, but they have the money. But you might look at them as like poor people, but they're not. So that was a sidetrack and a life lesson for people out there to change their beliefs on what they think. But we'll go back to the animation journey. And I believe when Raymond was here, he talks about the Calabanda ate my homework. That was one of, it might not have been the first project that you guys did because you guys did a lot of it. Yes, sir. uh, but like he talks about that, and I want to highlight that. How was Calabanda ate my homework project for you when you took part of it? What did you learn from it, and how was the process of working on it?
Yeah. So Kalawanda 8 Mile Homework was my first project working professionally in this animation scene. So it was very much an experience of learning for me. I learned so much. I'd been writing for all these years, but never in my life had I ever written a script, like a screenplay. So I had to learn how to do that. You might have the story, but then translating to film, it's a whole different um, canvas. So I wrote the screenplay for Kalabanda ate my homework. I repeated it about like 12 to 15 times. That's writing start to finish. I mean, like, because the iterations in between when there's like a few changes are made and then there's like a version 3.57 or something like that. But anyway, I say officially like 12 times. We rewrote the script. There was a lot of back and forth between me and Raymond in terms of like story points and sharing what we felt we needed to have the film say and where the jokes were landing. There was a lot of feedback. Feedback has been so important to us, and one of the things we did was from very much even from the script stage, we'd take the script like to different people. Like my mom, you test it on a lady of her age, then you go and test it on a kid, you go test it on your peers. And what you do is that you get back feedback of this person laughed here, but this person didn't laugh here. And then you have to understand why and ask yourself a question of whether that's something that needs to be changed, who it's going to satisfy, whether it also satisfies you, whether you're okay with it. So there's a lot of back and forth. I learned so much about the entire animation process because at the time when we started, there was just two of us in a room in my parents' house. And basically, because I didn't get to study animation, it meant that the only animator that we had on the team was Raymond. And uh, as COO, I was trying to figure out our business direction and the journey that we're going to take at the time. So it involved a lot of failures. I feel like for the whole first year of Creatures animation, no, not even a feeling. For the whole first year of Creatures animation, we didn't make a single cent, not a shilling, not a dime. We made zero, and it was a lot of try and error. Just we thought, how do we enter the market? How do we show people what we do? And the initial first plan was to come at it using ads. Because the most obvious thing, like, well, we can get some money from ads, and then we can finance what we want to do. But we had no portfolio except
Yeah.
Raymond's final year project, which was not reflective of anything that we could do here. People were not really buying it, and so
Mhm.
no one really wanted to listen. And eventually we settled on doing KAlabanda Ate My Homework, and we felt that it would be something that would do much more for us, in
Mhm.
with some guidance from some of Raymond's former workmates. Like I think his former boss told him that if we went down the path of doing original content, it would do way more for us than any amount of
Yeah.
clips or ads. And so we just started and we went for it and
Mhm.
fought through all the hustle for what 2 years as we were building the team. And at the end of the day, we had 7 people who were really talented and life lessons. I don't know. There's stuff like unless you ask a specific question about what happened during that, like there was a lot of stuff, man. We're eating badly, long nights, figuring
Well,
out.
I interviewed Pesh on the podcast, who was one of the team at that time. I think he's in Vancouver right now, and he was talking about his
Oh,
side
dish.
of the story.
Oh,
Desh, yeah, Desh. Sorry, I interviewed Desh about that, and he told his experience. He was like, at that time he didn't really care about a lot. He just wanted to work, and he loved the process. And you guys could work till somebody says, "Banangi, let's go home." Let's go home, and there's people just
yeah.
enjoying the moment. And when you have the dream, when you and this is something I had when I started my podcast. Like, I have the dream, like I started this podcast solo, but along the journey, I've brought in more people who are helping me. They're remote, just like I'm remote. Like, this is my studio in my house, in my basement. Like, I record this podcast and put them out there. But like, I know along the way, you need people to be part of your team. And when you have the people that buy into your dream and they like it and they love it, the sky is the limit. Like, you're gonna go from there and just go up. And I like how that Calabanda Ate My Homework just launched and just going up to where we're gonna go to Kizazumoto. I already talked about, like, Raymond was here talking about Kizazumoto. But what inspired Calabanda Ate My Homework? Because so when I see that Calabanda Ate My Homework, it sounds like an excuse a child is giving a teacher. Like, teacher is asking you, where's your homework? Like, Calabanda Ate My Homework. What inspired that story?
So when we're trying to decide what project to do, we had a couple of ideas on board. Calabanda Ate My Homework was actually one of the ideas Raymond had, and basically that was it. It was
Yeah.
I have this idea for a story. It's a Calabanda Ate My Homework, and it's an excuse that a kid gives when he comes to school with no homework. That was it,
Yeah.
And then I went and built upon that, trying to figure out how the story would actually flow, and then in came all these other characters, Mr. Okech and Amia and Chibe. It just built out. I think even originally, I don't know, was the Calabanda supposed to be in the film? I don't know. There was just like the first was an excuse. And my memory is a bit foggy about that part, but
Yeah.
like the first was an excuse, but then it became like, what if the kid is actually telling the truth, and the teachers don't
Mhm.
believe him, and so he actually really has this problem, and that is kind of like, I guess we kind of left it open ended to people, like,
Mhm.
is this kid telling the truth? Is it in his head, or is it actually real? And in my eyes, I feel like it's real, man. Like a guy is actually
Yeah.
experiencing some stuff, but nobody wants to listen to him. Maybe Raymond would say it's some lies. Like the guy is like,
Yeah. No, yeah, that's awesome, and it's amazing to hear that, because it brings your memory back to school when I'm the kid who would go to school and teachers like, you didn't do your homework. Why didn't you do your homework? And we didn't have power. You don't have
ah.
candles, and we didn't have, like, all those excuses. So like that just triggers those memories and remember that. But like I mentioned, you kind of
I was going. So what I wonder about is how teachers in our primary schools, I don't know, at least at the school I was at, they were very non-forgiving about you, even if
yeah.
you, like, for a whole year you had a streak of delivering homework,
Hmm.
like positively and passing. This one day when you don't
Yeah.
do it and you actually have an excuse, there was a time, uh, even some guy's parent came with him, and was
Mm.
like, man, this and this happened. This guy wasn't able to do stuff. And teacher's like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Okay. Then when the parent leaves, they're like, come, why did you do your homework? I said, what?
Yeah.
That's just crazy. So I don't know. In a way,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people look at Kalamand and my homework and they're like, you see that teacher there, Mr. Okech? That's how our teachers are. But
Yeah.
in my perspective, I really want to paint it out there so that people know that it's not okay for that to
Yeah.
be like. I feel like there's a different approach to how to get to these kids. As in like teachers like I don't know. There's a lot of violence in these schools. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like teachers back in the day, they didn't have mercy. They didn't have that heart. They just wanted to cane that Kubenigo. They caned us, like for any reason. They just want. I feel like they just wanted to. This is what I think now. I think like they would go in their staff room and say, "Hey, today I caned 35. How many did you cane?" They're like they were in a competition.
I have that theory as well. I
Yeah.
have that theory. They were happy about it, which is
Yeah. So
messed
they'll
up.
go. Maybe they had their own betting going on. It's like, hey, I came 35. How many did you cane? So they will find any reason to cane you. And it was a tough time. Teachers caned. But yeah, we said Calabanda in my homework was a kickstart to just a kickoff. And Raymond mentioned that when he was on the podcast, like to get you out of the garage to start a studio. And with all the
Yeah.
things that you guys did, then it brings to this amazing project that's now it's all over the world. Kizazimoto had a boy, which was amazing. And if you missed the episode with Raymond, he goes in depth of that project. Here with Robin, we're going to touch a little bit only on his side and how it was for him. But like, if you want the depth of everything, Raymond was here to mainly talk about the project. So then it leads to Kizazumoto. How were you? Where were you when you found about this opportunity of landing Kizazumoto?
Where was I?
Hmm.
Let's see. It was during the lockdown in the pandemic that it was officially confirmed. Like I think the
Yeah.
first lockdowns in 2020. So I was at home
Okay.
in the trapped inside. But it was a very nice moment. Personally, for me, I kind of invited some friends over and kind of had like a little party with them. I know that wasn't supposed to be happening, but there were a few people. There were like few people, and the
Yeah.
windows were open. but like, but like, I invited them over. They didn't know why I was calling them over, and I didn't even tell them why. But I just needed to
Mhm.
celebrate with some people because I was not. It
Yeah.
was not my place to really be saying something to them at the time because there are a lot of NDAs and things like that. So I
Mhm.
was just like this,
Mhm.
and I was like, "No, guys, let's be happy. Yeah, there's really stuff to be happy about." But yeah, it came. It was a really big deal, and for a while for me, I'll be honest, it didn't really register. And I try not to register things in my mind until they really start and get off
Okay. Yeah.
because I feel like with this amount of time that I've had in this space, a lot of things can reach like 99% and not happen.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like happy it was confirmed, but like I was like, let's first start. Actually, if
Yeah.
anything, let it first come out. Let it be finished, and then we will
Yeah.
see it. And then I'm like, yeah, now the Disney project has been done. But which
Yeah.
is so funny because at the end of that process, I'm already over it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool and all, but now we're on to the next one. So
Right.
I don't know. Kizazimoto was great for us. It was great for Raymond. It was great for our studio. It has exposed our team to like a whole like world of knowledge that I feel like not many people have had access to. And we're trying to utilize that knowledge to be able to build our studio and our animation industry over here in Uganda and Africa to become bigger things.
Mhm.
We're picking and choosing exactly what information is useful and what information is not because we have to do
Yeah.
things our own way over here in Africa. We can't do them the
Yeah.
American way. We can't do them the European way or Indian or whatever. We have to just do them our own way because we
Yeah.
have different factors standing over here. So Kizazimoto has really been a very big pivotal part in that, in us understanding where different industries lie and us then applying it to our own.
Yeah, I am a person who doesn't like to get disappointed, so I'll hold my hopes before something really happens, because then the heartbreak will be worse than, oh my gosh, it was close. Um, but what was it then after you seeing it on Disney Plus? Like, the whole process is done. Now, boom, goes live 5th July. We're live on Disney Plus. How was the feeling when you saw it on there?
So Disney Plus is not available in Uganda. So so I will say that I didn't watch it the second it came out. It really took some
Yeah.
time for us to be able to get a version that we could actually watch as the team here.
Okay.
So I didn't have the immediate impact, which is
Okay.
kind of funny and ironic, I guess. But I had
Mhm.
seen the film, obviously, but I'd not seen the
Were you were
finished
you part of
film.
a screening? Did you go to a screening, or was it
Screening,
just
no,
Raymond?
no. I didn't. No, Raymond is the one. He's the
Okay.
one who went to South Africa. I didn't go for the screening.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
really hadn't watched the finished version.
Mhm.
I'd seen the film's story finished, but I'd not seen the final full rendered film with all the
Yeah.
sound and what they had done. Um,
Mhm.
so when I watched it, I was actually really proud and really happy about what had come out. Like I felt like it was real, and it wasn't fake. It wasn't like bad. It was a good film. And for
Yeah.
that to be something, it's one thing to be announced that there's a Disney project coming from a Ugandan, and then when
Yeah.
it comes out, it's actually rubbish. But I actually genuinely like it. There was
Yeah.
it was genuinely like a nice story and really well directed.
Mhm.
So kudos to Raymond for
Yeah.
that. And I really liked it because Boy,
Yeah.
in its entirety, I think from since we began, it's like the first project Raymond had done like completely as him in terms of story and everything. Like I mean, not in life, but like with the studio when we had the
Yeah.
studio. So that was really nice to see. It was nice to see what his mind is doing and
Yeah.
what he would make on his own. And I was
Mhm.
like, interesting. Like, it's interesting stuff because I can already tell with the partnership that we have in our writing, that probably I would have even changed some things. I don't know if they would have made it worse or better. Who knows? But like it would have definitely
Yeah.
been a different-ish story. So it was interesting to watch, and I was
Mhm.
really glad that I liked the film that he had, along with the other films, because I kind of binged all of them. And I was like, dude,
Mhm.
this is actually it's not easy to binge Kizazimoto because the films are so dense in terms
Yeah.
of content. But I binged through them,
Mhm.
man. I was extremely proud of everything that the guys had done there. I was like, guys, this is a big
Yeah.
deal. I was really happy.
Mhm.
I was really happy.
All the films came out pretty good, and like for me, I got the opportunity to see it the day it came, because Raymond had told me it's coming out on the 5th, so get ready, and we were gonna record on the 8th. So I need to make sure I get it.
Yeah.
And when I turn on my Disney Plus like this, and the sound comes on, and then you hear these words. My smile was like going all the way crazy, and just like an anxious, like somebody, like a kid looking for like presents and stuff. And then you see some hints of like your country, and then you hear some
Mm.
Luganda. Oh, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know that name. And then Ono Mwana Banange Kadogo. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, that hits home right there. And I remember I told Raymond about that. So for me, it was a lot of like excitement. I felt like I was part of it. I felt like I was included in it because my language was being spoken on that. So that's how I felt about it. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that have different experiences and when they watch it. It was amazing. It was clean. It was a great job that you guys did. And yeah, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. Last time, and this is now you already know. I made a trick for you. I asked you the questions that people had asked a while ago, and I didn't tell you the names. And then afterwards, I told you who asked the names. But some of the questions I got from the people,
Like you're selling
some of the
yourself.
questions.
You can lie to the audience. They don't
Okay.
have to know.
What would you advise someone who wants to join animation space but does not have any clear art and background on or history of animation?
So it's like not. I'm just going to say very very quickly that I actually wasn't thinking about the questions before I came on, and so I don't
Yeah.
even know what I answered the last time. But I'll probably answer.
Okay.
I'll probably have like fresh new answers. Let's see if I'm consistent. I don't know. Somebody who is trying to get into animation but doesn't have.
Background or history of animation.
Yeah, that person is me. I am very much that person. And here's the thing: animation is a very big team effort, and people tend to assume that when you're making an animated piece of content, a film, a show, that everyone is animating. But in the animation pipeline, there are animators, and then there are a lot of other different people in the space. So you have concept artists, you have riggers who are just making the bones and doing anything technical. Then there are modelers who basically model the characters and different assets in the thing, in the film. Then there's texture artists who are putting materials, and then there are writers, and that's only in terms of the people who are working uh, on physically on the film. In our
Mhm,
studio, a company like ours, there is different other roles that are not even technical, because it's a business. And
mhm,
a lot of films you see those credits produced by, then you see line
mhm,
produced, assistant line manager, what these things. These are all roles of people who are not doing things technically but are very integral to the process. So right now I am personally for there's a show that we're doing right now on YouTube, a kids show called Kunda and Friends, which is like a toddler's learning kind of show. But
mhm,
based off of what we had learned on Kizazimoto and seeing how the pipeline was being done there, I modeled a new whole method of working for our team. And it basically pushed me into line production, which makes me kind of like the line producer for Kunda and Friends. And a line producer doesn't have to have background in animation at all. What it
mhm.
is really the line producer is basically making sure that everything on the line is moving. So
Right.
what everyone is doing, making sure that it's done right, giving them proper direction, times of scheduling, and making sure that this happened before that. The model was made in time for the rigger to put the bones in. The Kunda character is ready for the animators to use in this particular episode. Things like that. And watching that is also a whole kind of different job of its own that has entirely nothing to do with
Right.
the animation per se, but has everything to do with the animation, which is kind of so you find like a person like me. It's actually nice that I have this book here. Um, I do a lot of the thumbnailing. I call it thumbnailing because I can't call this storyboarding because I'm not really good at drawing. But like
Yeah.
a lot of the episodes that you see on Kun and Friends, I did the storyboards. Like I don't know if
Oh
the image is
wow.
clear or yeah.
Oh
So I
wow.
like
Yeah.
this
Yeah. I see.
this like wheels on the bus. I like the
Yeah.
drawings are so bad, but then the thing is that they translate. They
Yeah.
translate, and all I have to do is get this to our artists who are much better than me,
Mhm,
and you find that artist, their challenge might be that they don't have the story. And I find this is the easiest way to translate the story for people who are artistically, rather than a script. For them, sometimes they really need thumbnails because here I can give you proper direction in terms of camera, how things are moving, where each character is placed in the scene. And then when you see what these guys translate from my crazy stickman drawings, I'm just like, what? And this is the person who is not technically as in like doing animation, and yet you watch a bunch of
mhm.
the episodes on YouTube, but I thumbnailed most of them, and it goes through the
Right.
pipeline, and I'm just making sure it goes from start to finish. No, this
Yeah.
was supposed to be like this. This is supposed to be like that. That was that, and that's how it's going. So it's really, 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 really 100% possible. I feel not only for animation, but for almost anything. When they say
Right.
if you want something, go for it. That kind of thing.
And I like your answer. I like that the way even how you ended it. Like it's not only for animation, but for anything in life. We
Yeah,
need a lot of people. Like that's why even in school you have teachers, you have head teachers, you have cooks, you have cleaners. So you're gonna need everybody to make something like running and to
yeah,
be able to do it.
exactly.
I got a question for you on that actually. Did you do any? Were you part of any music creation since you do music? Did you do anything like with music?
For Kalabanda, I ate my homework. Our composer is Isaiah, the composer, but and he did an excellent job. I really loved what the final project was. And that was many years ago. At the time, I was asking myself, because I had all these ideas about what the music could be like. And at a certain point, it had come down to me sitting with him at the studio, at his studio, and we're figuring out the music. And, I was like, almost like to a certain extent, like, la 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 la. And then he plays it in and puts it in the software.
Yeah,
And, that's what it comes. Let's add some more drums.
yeah.
And after that, you leave him and he goes on his own and he composes something. So it's very much full credit to him. But what I'm trying
Hmm.
to, the reason why I say that is because after Kalabanda in my homework was done, I asked myself why I wasn't just doing it myself. Because if I had all
Hmm.
the all the ideas in my head, all I needed to do was just learn the software and do it. And
Yeah,
so today, I really got into it, and I just really went down a journey. I have my little controller here for composition
yeah.
as well, and so I really got into it. So much of our work in house, I have done. mm, I can't think of a project, but like most of our work in house, including client work and
Hmm.
and different things here, except Kizazimoto. Kizazimoto, there was
Yeah.
politics. Anyway, but like most of the work that we've done, I've done the music and the sound. Like I generally just got into sound. Like I was the resident sound person at Creatures. We needed a voiceover,
Yeah,
we talked to Robin. In fact, for some of our work, I've
yeah.
done the voiceovers myself. And even
Mm.
for Calabanda in my homework, the scratch voices of all the characters were either Raymond or me. And we,
Yeah,
as in, because it's just like that, and recorded at home, we would just do some things, and sound is very much because we want to be a full studio that everything happens in house. Anything that for the production of the
yeah.
of the animation, sound is very important in film, and so I'm really driving a direction of our studio that also focuses on sound. And the idea is to have more people come in for sound. Look at that. Sound is also something important for animation. And
Hmm.
there's people who are literally on animation teams for sound purposes and never touch any of the characters. But like
That's,
yeah,
that's
so
it.
there's just a whole direction there that I want to get into as well. Or that we have already started and I'm building on.
The other question: has his upbringing or where he was raised influenced his craft?
He's being me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's being you.
Okay. Okay. I would like to think that everyone's journey influences what they do in their careers, and their lives much ahead in their adulting, you know, and it definitely has, because I feel like we're exposed to a lot of different kinds of content when we were younger. I've watched, along with my brothers, we've watched a ton of things that I know a bunch of Ugandans haven't watched, because for a while, when we were younger, we we were in Belgium because my dad was working in Belgium for some time, for about 7 years, and I wasn't there for 7 years. I was there for like 3 or 4 years. So I was really young. But the thing is that my parents kind of recorded cassette tapes of like everything. I don't even know why or what their future plans were, but when we came back to Uganda, there were boxes upon boxes of tapes. And
Yeah,
throughout my childhood, like, we didn't have DSTV or what people would call cable. Uh, and so, you just throw in a tape and they're labeled. One is called just cartoons, one is called Swan Princess, one is called, I don't know, it might even be Sunset Beach, it might even be soaps, or like Bold and the Beautiful. So you're like
yeah,
watching a bunch of these things, and I know people have watched some of them, but like there are shows in particular that we're watching. I don't know, there's like Mighty Max, or like I don't know, people hadn't watched The Tick over here. Just a bunch of things that we were watching. So I consumed all that content, plus all the content when I came to Uganda. I was also consuming all the things, I don't know, Samurai X, this and that, whatever was on our local
yeah.
channels here, and just continue pushing. And my parents were very open to what we consumed, I would say. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's kind of, parental guidance was needed for some of those things, but we turned out fine. But
Yeah.
they were really like we were exposed to so much, and that just defines our direction of things. And so some of
Mhm.
the stories that I'll tell will be based off my own life experience or inspired by
Yeah.
things I saw. We grew up in flats along with a bunch of other children, and so we're interacting in different households. I was absorbing all those things. I love the flat living life, and it's nice for kids
Mhm.
anyway. And I don't know, in my opinion, as kids we were exposed to so many different kinds of families,
Yeah.
and the people with the parents who are like, get out, you're making noise, and then the ones who are just so loving, and then the ones who want y'all to stay over, then the ones who are a bit of both, the one where there's
Yeah.
mommy is the one who you don't want to talk to, then there's the other one of like, this guy's dad is never around, but when he comes, you better. And these are all stories. And
Mhm.
when I think about them now as an adult, I'm just really, it's like writers are basically
Content.
drawing from what they know. So even
Yeah.
even anybody else, from what they like, no life is boring. I don't believe so. Whatever you're calling as a
Mhm.
boring life is probably the most interesting thing that somebody would want to write about. So
Yeah.
I don't know. In terms of a storyteller, very much influenced the way I think. Kalabanda in
Mhm.
my homework is the classroom setting is based off of like a classroom that's a meld of what my classroom and Raymond's classrooms were like. But that's not
Mhm.
how all the classrooms are in Uganda are like. It's like we would try to gate. We try to make uh, a kind of environment in terms of that classroom and the setting that encompassed a lot of different kinds of people's classrooms, because we're asking people also for feedback here and there what they thought. But generally, like the soul of it comes from what our journey has been. So yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
Malinga has an amazing analogy about the sailors, the vast land, etc. He should reshare. Somebody wants you to reshare that.
Yeah, I remember this from the last time. I'll try to explain it because I'll try to explain it as best as I can. Um, I didn't think it was something worth sharing on a podcast, by the way. Like, I find that interesting, but I did think that it was
Mm.
something important that a lot of uh, people younger than me should see. I feel like I'm not that old, but like anyone who is in their like early 20s and it's like in
Mhm.
campus and maybe just leaving, and maybe generally, I don't know. Let's say, let me get to it. So basically, the analogy is that I look at life almost like when we are still in school, on campus, um, and I'll also add living with our parents. We are on a ship, that's on the ocean, and everyone is given particular instructions. Robin, you're supposed to do this. Raise the mast. Do this. I might be butchering that stuff, but like, everyone is given a particular role, and it's very clear what you're going to do tomorrow. There's a schedule. There's a this. There's a that. But then when we leave school and get out into the real world, it's like the ship has docked at an island that is as vast as the eye can see, like endless land, and you don't know what this place is, and it goes in all directions, and there is no paths, there's no roads, there's nothing there, and everyone starts to get off the ship at their own pace. Everyone has to get off the ship. So when people get off the ship, some people move in that direction completely, like that side. Somebody goes straight down the middle, another one down that side, and you just all go off in your own directions with no real idea what's going to happen. And at some point, you might bump into somebody else while you're still roaming the island. And when you find this person, you find, oh, they have actually made some progress in their lives on this island life, and they have probably made some progress. So that would be equivalent to you know a couple of years later you meet your friend and they said that they were going to become a farmer. Full circle. Anyway, they
Mhm.
were going to become a farmer, and then you discover that, when you saw them going down that path, you are like, man, that guy is crazy. Doesn't he see that this path here is the right one? But that's what looked nice for you. You went down that side, you met him again, and while he's a farmer, he's actually really like he's having a great life. He's fulfilled and he's happy. And then you find another friend down the other path who said they were going to do this, and she's happy. But then you find some who are struggling. And it's, there's a lot of unknowns, basically, is what I'm saying. When you get off the ship onto the island of life, there's a lot of unknowns about what's going to happen. But you have to go, because some people, when they jump off the ship, can't even take it. They want to jump back onto the ship, but that ship, it says sailed. It's going back
Yeah.
to pick up new customers, new crews, and some people get stuck at the shore for the longest time, trying to see how they could go back onto the ship. And the reason why I share the story is so that people are aware beforehand what's going to happen when they are out of the comfort of school and their parents' lives. I felt that it's not like it was extremely hard for me, but I was shocked at how no one really says anything to you, like not your parents, or at least in my experience anyway, my parents didn't say nothing. Everyone's just keeping quiet, not telling you what this life is like outside of the nest. And I feel like there needs to be some
Mhm.
little bit of like forewarning or guidance as somebody is going into the world, just so that they have the headspace to be able to walk stronger and with more confidence that this is okay. I'm not supposed to know exactly what's going to happen next, because we have been in a life of programming, our whole
Mhm.
education system and everything, university, high school, primary, nursery, you've been scheduled into a life. And for that schedule to suddenly be removed, some people are not ready to take it, and they're just like,
Mhm.
what? But some people are, and some people are, but they're like dragging their feet. So and just an analogy that I made, and I
Right.
know who said it, and I find it hilarious. Asked me to tell the story, but I guess
No.
they find value in it, which is nice.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say the same thing. Like I know at the beginning you said you don't think this is a story worth sharing on a podcast, but I think for me, person who likes to listen, I think this is like the well, I don't know how to call it, but like the point for me. Like this is I love this. I love that kind of stuff. It's something that makes you think. When you were telling that story, I was hearing it for the first time, and I know my listeners are going to be hearing it for the first time. But like that's some of the things. There's something like when you mentioned about people leaving the ship and going on the land, and some of them wanting to go back, but the ship has already left. To me, I was thinking about it as a regret in life. Like, oh, I should have done this. I should have gone back to
Yeah,
this and done this, but that is already gone. Like you could have done whatever you had to do at the time. It's like so like take opportunity of all the time that you have and use it to the best ability of what you can do. At least it could be like many people can take out different things from that, but that's a story for
yeah,
somebody to think about it and just apply in your life and that kind of stuff. I like it. I love it. I don't know what the listeners will think about it, or maybe you don't think like, oh, this is not something people will be interested in, but it is. It is for me. At least for me, I like it. And
yeah.
like I
I'm
told you
glad.
last time, I told you last time when I had you on the podcast that you're one of the people that I could sit down and talk to like for hours and for hours and for hours
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
like the flow of the conversation, the things we talk about, and your brother Raymond too. Like you guys, God has blessed you with this wisdom of words and like, I mean, I think that comes with you guys storytelling. That's what you do. That's your job, being a storyteller.
maybe.
So
But
that
much obliged. I,
comes,
I, I
that comes with
appreciate I
that.
appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thankful for that, and I can't wait for the listeners to tap into this episode. I'm glad the audio worked out; it came out great. And if you have that audio recorded, you send it out to me. But um, what's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
My life lesson is, at least in this moment in time and for a couple of years, has been it's a marathon, not a sprint. Something that is very important to me every day. I tell myself every day, sometimes you do things and you think you're supposed to see the results immediately, but the truth is that you're supposed to go through the race for a while before you get there. And it's very much something that we implement in our team, and I implement in my work. A person who goes to the gym will say the exact same thing, incremental gains. And there's an illusion of us when we're much younger, like in this stage of life, that I'm supposed to have made it. I want to make it, now. But then you have to put in the work, and that work gives birth to results, and those results you have to put more work into them, and then the things keep on building. So it's a marathon. You're going to run
Yeah.
how many thousands of kilometers, but when you reach the end, how many people celebrate when our guys win the marathons? Guys are like, hey, Cheptege, my guy, guys
Mhm.
run is fast. You think it was five
Yeah.
minutes? You think it was even the hour that he ran? No, a man has been training for how many months to
Yeah.
get to that thing? No, it's not
Yeah.
simple. It's not simple. And I think it's
Yeah.
it's a general life lesson. It applies across everything.
What gets you excited about life?
What gets me excited about life? I've forgotten about this question, by the way. And I've
Yeah.
forgotten about all of them. What gets me excited about life? I think I get excited learning new things. Anything that's new to me, a new skill, a new problem, a new problem that I can solve or that I have to solve. Uh, the fact that in each point in life there is always something new, and
Mhm.
in stages of life you learn new things. It just excites me, man. Anything new. I just love learning. Learning, maybe
Yeah.
let me say, learning, because there's so much. There's different
Mhm.
places. That's why I really love traveling as well. Because when you travel to some other place, you discover new ways people are thinking, new things people are doing, like the same stuff you do back at home.
Mhm.
It's just exciting for me just to know that there is more out there than what I have now. That's
Yeah.
basically it.
The final question on the podcast is a signature question. Who would you like to see on my podcast next? And you're gonna help me connect me with this person to be our next guest.
Yeah. I feel there's a close friend of mine called Isaac Noel that goes by Scarlet Motif on Instagram. He's a visual artist, makes a lot of like visual graphics for like concerts and in his own work.
Mm.
I guess he can expound on that when he talks about it. But he has done a lot of big things. I know he did an exhibition in South for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He's done some stuff in South Africa, and no one really knows this kind of work. So
Mhm.
basically, think about it like an artist, like a painter who displays at a gallery, and
Mhm.
then they're visual artists, and it's a really big thing. I recently traveled to Barcelona, and I went to a museum there, and in some of their museums they have eh, places for digital, basically his work, digital
Mhm.
artists, not exactly his work, but like the kind of work he does. Like digital art is also displayed in the museum on screens with music and stuff like that. So he's a musician as well. So he makes music for his own visual art. And that what's so special about it is that his work is interactive. So when he does displays, the work is either affected by the music, or he can put a display where it interacts with the people, whereby when you move, the art moves. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
I find that
Yeah.
that's somebody interesting and not something you'd find in Uganda or Africa at large for
Mhm.
that very commonly. Yeah.
That would be amazing. And for before we end this, I want to remind the people that it's because of my guests that my podcast is here. And that question, who would you like to see on my podcast next, has taken me places. It's taken me to the UK, has taken me to the Caribbean, has taken me to Uganda. And that's why, in this very moment, when my podcast has been nominated for the Pulse Influencer of the Year Awards, and for the second time, because we won the first time, and I love it. And I want to thank all my guests. I want to thank the people who are voting right now, because we're in the lead. And it's because of these things that when people share on Instagram, So like I have friends in Costa Rica that shared, hey, vote for this person. I have friends in Turkey that shared, hey, vote for this person. In Canada, Dash. So you get to see all these countries coming together to support my podcast. My podcast is not the biggest podcast in the world. Like some people don't even know it in Uganda. Some people don't. I don't know, but like to see the love from the people supporting it. It's not the best technology. It's not the best lighting. It's not the best. None of that matters. But for me, I like the goal that we get to hear stories of what we do, content creators in Uganda. You just talked about the person you recommended that I don't know, but like when I get talk to him, like that's cool. You're doing a very, and I already can't wait to talk to him because it's something I'm not familiar about, and I can't wait for my listeners to tune into something like that. So once again, vote for us. I ask you to vote, but again, I remind you, like with or without the award, we're still gonna go and bring these stories out to you because I feel like there's a
Yeah, you're
lot of
getting the
stories
award, man.
that I've not yet
In fact,
discovered.
congratulations.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. But once again, Malinga, Robin, thank you. And remember, I told you the last time we recorded, I'm coming to Uganda this December to visit. So I want to meet you and want to
Please,
have a live conversation with you more about different things. I can't
please.
wait.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Looking forward to it, man. Thank you
All
for
right,
having
my
me.
brother. Thanks very much, my brother. Let me let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Nice day to you. Cheers. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.